Zone Media.
Welcome back to Behind the Bastards, a podcast where Sophie is not in the room right now. So Dr. Kaveh Hoda and I are the foxes watching the hen house. That is also we're also the hens.
I am the producer. I am the captain now.
Mm-hmm. We're like hen foxes, like a cat dog situation. Although I imagine a hen fox, the fox is just going to try to eat its hen. That's part of its butt, I imagine.
I love your quaint country colloquialisms. It's great. Don't know what they mean, but they sound
you were
folksy.
probably too young for that cartoon. I was the right age for it.
Yes,
Dr. Hoda, my healthcare expert, legally my doctor. Oh
God.
Do you have any theories that you can't prove, that are unprovable, that are probably nonsense, that you nonetheless believe about health?
About health?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot.
That's good.
As a doctor, I feel like I should. I will talk to you at great length about how supplements are a fantastic waste of time. And I will tell you in detail, and I have on many episodes, why they're more dangerous generally than they are good, and you should only use them with strict instructions from your physician. But that being said, I feel like ginger really helps me in like a power-up way that it doesn't. I know it doesn't, but I love it, and the placebo effect is so strong for me that, you
got to adopt
ginger's
that placebo.
Yeah, ginger's my magic thing,
Yeah.
my little magic creation in my mind that works more than it really does.
Yeah, I'm not big on supplements. I do take, my doctor advised me to take for blood pressure, calcium and potassium. So I do some of that. Which I've noticed I don't get cramps as much as I used to. So I guess I'll call that a win. I do love looking into the different potential side effects. I love going onto like biohacking subreddits and seeing people talk about like the side effects they're having with various weird supplements they're taking to never die. Although my favorite is the lion's mane subreddit. So lion's mane is like a mushroom that does have like an effect on your brain, right? Like there's actually some like studied benefits of lion's mane, but it's a pretty mild supplement, but there's this group of people who are convinced that like taking it once has like destroyed their life in the way that like a huge dose of psilocybin mushrooms might have like mind altering effects. And it's like, man, people I know put like it in their smoothies. I don't think it's the fucking lion's mane that's giving you nightmares for the last 7 years of your life.
I mean, that's the kind of thing I hear a lot about, like every medication, you name it out there. Someone blames that medication for their life being in shambles. Yeah. And, it's medication.
That's what we're talking about today.
Lots of risks. That's true. They all do, some more than others. I think we're probably going to discuss here. But I don't know if lion's mane, which I'm not familiar with really. So
it's a mushroom. It's a mushroom. Yeah. It's got, some mushrooms have neurological impacts and stuff on people. Yeah. But my particular favorite medical theory, Dr. Yes. Hoda, is that obviously cigarettes are bad. They're terrible for almost everyone, nearly always horrible. But I think there's a slightly less than 1% of the population that have a genetic abnormality that makes cigarettes make them live forever. Because every now and then I'll meet, sometimes in like little corners of the world or whatever, I've met like little old ladies in Japan are like 96. And they're like, yeah, I've been chain smoking cigarettes since I was like 11 years old or something like that. And it's like, clearly it works for you. Like there's some minority of the population that cigarettes make invulnerable.
I feel like this is that meme of the plane that returns from war with the bullet holes in it. You're never going to hear me say cigarettes are okay. They know what they've done. They know.
I know they've killed uncountable more people than war in the 20th century, and war killed so many people in the 20th century. But every now and then I'll meet some like 90-year-old woman who smokes 4 packs a day, and she's doing fine. So clearly science doesn't understand everything about the maligned cigarette. No, don't smoke cigarettes.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't vape.
Don't vape.
That's the one that worries. I mean, like, especially since all of my friends vape heavily. It's one of those like, Yeah, but it's got to be doing something, right? Like it's got to be doing something. Like,
oh, for sure. I'm not a huge fan of vaping either. There is harm reduction. There's a good argument about that, but you're not going to see me promote vaping either.
That said, when we get into the whole, what is it responsible to tell people to do or not? A lot of times, the greatest harms are things that people, like cigarettes, were told by their doctors are great for them. And today we're going to tell one of those stories, a story of a drug that became the lead seller for a major pharmaceutical company that was backed by an alliance of physicians who had, shall we say, some financial interest in finding that this thing worked. Today we're talking about Vioxx, which is, I think, an infamous name now in the annals of medical science. People tend to know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, this killed more Americans than the Vietnam War. Like that's the story we're getting into today. What do you know about Vioxx?
I was too young to I wasn't really practicing medicine when it happened, but I did know about it, and I've heard some about it since then. I'm really very fascinated by the story, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it today. So I'm excited about that. I will say, I think it feels like a turning point in regards to how people looked at pharmaceutical companies. I think it was really like a sentinel event in that, like, I think doctors were always skeptical of pharmaceutical companies, and we still are. But I think that was when people started to become cynical. That change started. It's because of what happened with Vioxx.
And Vioxx, I think it's also important that, like, Vioxx, the scandal hits kind of right as, before we're really starting to realize what has gone down with the prescription painkiller epidemic, like when that's starting to really take off and we start to realize how fucked up some of what Purdue did. And so this 1-2 punch, it really is responsible. I think that's very salient what you said. It's really responsible for a lot of, for like RFK is about to be the director of Health and Human Services, right? Like it has a lot to do with that, because this is hard for people to imagine. Like folks my age, I have always grown up with big pharma being like the devil, right? In part because like as soon as I turned 18, 19, I was hanging out with a lot of hippies. But in part because like there were a lot of like really, really high body count pharmaceutical company scandals. And it is hard for some people to remember that like pharmaceutical companies used to be very popular and well regarded in a lot of cases, in part because the generation that was kind of running the world in the 80s and 90s had largely lived through like, and we're still close to, polio is this nightmare that just sweeps through and devastates like a generation. You have these flus and then suddenly you have half as many friends after the flu passes. And that stops being a thing. And they're really the first generation, kind of the later boomers that didn't have to deal with that, but were close enough to it to like really appreciate like, wow, medical science did us a solid. And
we've drifted just far enough from that now that people have forgotten and are revising whole parts of history.
And part of the problem is that shit like the Vioxx scandal and like the Purdue pharmaceutical scandals are closer to us than for example, fucking people being in iron lungs or whatever, Right. Recency bias is a hell of a thing. But since time immemorial, mankind has struggled against a terrible and implacable enemy. Pain. Luckily for us, Mother Nature has provided a perfect painkiller, opium, that can be used as the basis for a variety of excellent medicines that really do exactly what they say they're going to do. Unfortunately, these medicines come with a downside, which is that when you start taking them, you might not ever want to stop taking them. For some people, this destroys their lives. Let me take a sip of my Kratom tea. And since all the health cops out there don't like people pill popping like Dr. House, even though he made it look incredibly sexy.
Did he? Fucking hate that show.
Oh man, you're not a House fan, huh?
No, it's just so ridiculous. All of those shows. Scrubs is the only one that's watchable for me.
Scrubs, really? Yeah, I mean, I did rewatch. I like to imagine that the movie Platoon is like like the whatchamacallit, the
prequel,
the prequel to
because John C. McGinley's in it.
Because John C. McGinley's in it. Yeah,
yeah, right.
That's why Dr. Cox is the way he is. Yeah. He had to spend that night hiding under his friends' bodies in a trench line.
Everyone ran away, man.
He had to watch Willem Dafoe die.
Yeah.
Spoilers for the movie Platoon, which is older than most of you. Might be older than me. I don't remember when Platoon came out. Anyway, so because of, health cops don't like people becoming horrible pill addicts and destroying their lives, there's a market, a massive market for anyone who can create a thing that is an effective painkiller that doesn't also inspire people to break into cars for drug money, right? There's a lot of money in a painkiller that does not have the kind of abuse potential that opiates have. Acetaminophen was discovered back in the 1880s, but it took us until the 1940s to actually figure out how to use it as a drug. And for reasons that are more complex than it's really worth getting into, because of how it was discovered, acetaminophen could never be patented, right? Which means pharmaceutical companies are not super attracted to acetaminophen, right? Because you can only sell it for so much if everyone can make the damn thing. This meant that pharmaceutical companies had to get creative marketing it in order to make it profitable. As a result, Tylenol became a foundational part of the marketing drug story. McNeil, the company that started selling acetaminophen in the US, initially framed it as a painkiller for children. And the way the ad campaign that they use is very weird. For some reason, and I've never found out why, but for unclear reasons, they had a huge number of toy fire trucks. And the way that they first sold Tylenol was they stuffed fire trucks to the brim with pills of Tylenol and made that was their marketing ploy to get little parents to buy Tylenol for their small children.
Kids always love fire trucks.
Kids love Tylenol too.
They love their Tylenol. They love their liver damage, and they love their fire trucks. It's just the thing about kids.
This is why I'm going to try to make the chief Christmas toy of this season, the Little Doctor House pill popper set, where because kids, you can take as much Tylenol as you want, right?
It'll be like a big cane,
just
with
a big
Pez
cane. And
container
a
at the top,
of Tylenol.
and that's dispenser, right? Mm-hmm. And that's your little house toy for kids.
It's your little house toy for kids, yeah. Now, this worked better than it had any right to work. Advertising was easier back then. I imagine today, if you tried to sell parents on a child, which is like a fire truck full of pills. I don't know. This doesn't make me feel good about any of this. But you have to remember,
we're so jaded now. That's a problem. We're jaded.
We're jaded. And prior to Tylenol, the chief method of dealing with pain for small children was to give them a spoonful of heroin and hope they woke up the next day, right? They literally sold it as a cough medicine for children. So the fire truck plan worked well. It worked so well that McNeil gets bought by Johnson & Johnson. And that's actually when it gets the name Tylenol. McNeil's not selling it under Tylenol. Johnson & Johnson, which for whatever reason is a great name. I don't know why. Doesn't make much sense to me.
Easy to remember.
Yeah. So in subsequent decades, Tylenol was found to be useful in numerous medical applications as a painkiller, a fever reducer, and about a million other things. It was joined in the mild painkiller category by Bayer's aspirin, which had its roots in herbal medications that had been used by peoples around the world since time immemorial. The Assyrians and Sumerians had actually been using willow leaves as treatments for various ailments, and a variety of plants containing salicylic acid have been used in similar ways all over the globe. So acetaminophen and aspirin both quickly became foundational pieces of any medicine cabinet, but they weren't perfect. One issue that both painkillers had is that they could interact with other drugs or just interact badly with certain patients to cause substantial stomach distress. In the most severe cases, this could result in stomach ulcers and sometimes life-threatening stomach ulcers. So, this is one of these problems is you want to be able to give people as much of this as they need because it's, non-addictive and helps with a lot of things. But there's some hard limits based on what this does to people's stomachs.
Well, and livers. I mean, acetaminophen, that's worldwide one of the biggest causes of liver failure from people taking too much acetaminophen. And then, these other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, they're the kind of thing that make me, a gastroenterologist, have to go in the middle of the night to go put a scope into someone's stomach because they're bleeding a ton in the setting of, somebody who's swallowed too much Advil or something like Aleve or something.
Yeah, and I think that probably didn't make it as much into my research, just because in the 70s they didn't have as much data on that. Maybe
Sure, right.
they're all focused at least on the ulcers, but yeah, like there's a great bluegrass song called Codeine with the lyrics, codeine, codeine, you're the nicest thing I've seen for a while. And if you know anything about codeine, it's the worst of the painkillers to get high on, which makes the song better, because if you are the kind of person for whom like codeine is the nicest thing you've ever encountered, your life has been
had a hard
shit.
life.
You have had a bad life. So by the late 20th century, pharmaceutical researchers had started poking around both compounds to try to find ways to create new variants that didn't have any of those downsides. They called these hypothetical medications super aspirins, because research pharmacologists aren't great at naming things.
Terrible.
The quest for a super aspirin seems to have really started in 1971, when a gaggle of British researchers, I think that's how you term a group of researchers, tried to unravel the mystery of why aspirin and Tylenol work. Again, we knew these things were good painkillers, and we knew they did other stuff. The method of action was unclear to us at this point, which is a startling amount of the time true with drugs. There's a lot of medications you might be on that doctors don't precisely know why it does what it does. We have some ideas,
sure.
But like a lot of this is still being figured out.
More than you want to know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we do in medicine that they seem to work.
It does it. It definitely helps. We're not sure why.
Yeah.
But in this case, the research bore fruit, as author Tom Nessie describes in his excellent book, Poison Pills. Quote, when an injury takes place in the body, chemicals known as prostaglandins rush into the wound site to deal with the swelling, heat, and pain. Prostaglandins have important functions for human well-being. They play a part in ovulation, to protect the stomach from acids, and to ensure that blood clots normally. The latter effect explains why aspirin reduces heart disease. It prevents clumps of blood from forming that can potentially block an artery. Prostaglandins actually make nerve endings more sensitive to pain. NSAIDs, NSAIDs, NSAIDs.
The cool kids call them.
Yeah, NSAIDs reduce the production of prostaglandin and thereby relieve the pain associated with swelling and soreness. Unfortunately, in the process of doing so, they irritate the stomach. Sometime after this discovery, scientists found that a substance called cyclooxygenase, or COX, was produced as part of the mobilization of prostaglandin and was the enzyme that actually controlled pain and inflammation.
You're doing a fantastic job, by the way. I just want to, for a moment, you're doing a really good, you can call it Cox, by the way.
Cox, I was going to.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Cox.
Yeah. In his honor. But this is interesting. I didn't expect I was going to be getting this, like, trip down medical school, like, memory lane. This is fantastic. You're doing great. Keep it up.
We try to be complete. Also, Dr. Cox isn't born on the 4th of July, which you can consider a stealth sequel to Platoon if you assume that Willem Dafoe actually survived his injuries in Platoon.
Was he in Willem Dafoe
he's
born 4th of July?
He's the crazy vet in Mexico that fucking Tom Cruise meets when they're both like doing drugs and hanging out with prostitutes after losing their legs. Yeah, it's great. Oh, man, that movie rules.
Yeah.
So these researchers began to theorize that Cox might include an additional substance that was separately the cause for stomach irritation. If someone could find and isolate said substance, it might allow for the creation of a super aspirin. But no one even knew if this theoretical substance was real, and pharmaceutical companies didn't exactly feel an immediate urge to jump on the matter because they had no idea if this was even a thing. Fast forward to 1990, a pharmacologist named Needleman gets close to isolating the COX enzyme that he believes is causing all of the problems. He doesn't actually find it, but he's confident enough in its existence for reasons that I'm sure make sense to biochemists that he gives it a name, COX-2. Research goes on, and in July of 1992, several teams of researchers in Montreal announced that they have isolated 2 enzymes, COX-2, and one of which, COX-2, seems to be the causal agent behind the side effects NSAIDs provoke in some patients, right? So 1992, they found finally this thing they've been looking for like 20 years, right? This is the reason they believe why your aspirin or whatever can cause stomach ulcers. So the researchers mused that if you can find a medication that blocks COX-2 and you compound it with like a painkiller, with acetaminophen or whatever, then you'd have a super aspirin capable of being prescribed much more often to even more people. Aspirin sales at that point are already like 50 billion tablets per year. So the amount of money on table for the first pharmaceutical company to figure this out is mind-boggling, because then you get to patent it. Then you are the only one that has the aspirin that doesn't cause stomach ulcers, right? And for like whatever, 20 years, you're the only one who gets to sell that shit. That's so much fucking money, right? Like...
Yeah, it's one of the most commonly used medications in the world. Yeah, of course.
This is like an unfathomable fortune. We're talking like an oil and gas industry level fortune is on the table here. Yeah. And so a fucking race begins, right? And the two major companies that are going to wind up really throwing their hats into the table to get into the super aspirin ring are our old friend Pfizer and our new friend Merck. Now, today, again, any pharmaceutical company you mentioned, people tend to say like, fuck these guys. But in the late 1980s and early 90s, people did not feel that way about Merck. They were very much considered to be one of the good guys. Now, I know that kind of sounds crazy, but I want to read a quote from an article by David Culp and Isabel Berry in the Journal of Civil Rights and Economic Development. In its mission's values statement, the company stresses that its business is preserving and improving human life. Merck's mission statement continues, "We value, above all, the ability to serve everyone who can benefit from the appropriate use of our products and services." Throughout its history, Merck has often lived up to its stated mission. In the 1930s, after streptomycin was developed by a Merck scientist, Merck gave up its patent protection since it believed the drug was too important a medical breakthrough to keep to itself. Other companies were allowed to produce streptomycin, and Merck lost potential profits. Since the 1980s, when Merck found a cure for river blindness caused by a parasitic worm, the company had given away, free of charge, 40 million pills a year to African nations to treat and cure this. So Merck seems pretty good coming into the 90s. You're like, hey, maybe this is a company that actually believes what it's, they gave up money, a lot of it. So that sounds pretty great. But coming into the 90s, Merck is also staring down the barrel of a big problem. A lot of its massive wealth, because this is a very wealthy company coming into the 90s, was based on a pair of cholesterol drugs, Zocor and Preachol, which were both about to lose their 20-year patent protection starting in the early 2000s. So not yet, in about a decade, but a decade's not a lot of time in terms of like researching a new medicine, right? If you've only got a decade or so before your two big profit engines are going to be generic.
Takes a long time from research to get to market. Yeah, you got to start cooking. Yeah.
You got to start moving. And in addition to that, 5 of their best-selling medications, including Pepcid, were set to lose patent protection even sooner in 99. So they are looking at a looming, very serious problem for their profitability.
This is such a recurring theme with pharmaceutical companies. I just did an episode about a medication called Zygris, which was
Eli sounds Lilly. Like the Tigris. Yeah.
It sounds awesome. It's this medication that was touted as like this new breakthrough therapy for sepsis, and it was super exciting. It ended up falling apart for a lot of different reasons and being withdrawn, and ended up being a big marketing scandal, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, it all started because they were losing their patent on their big like selling medications. Like the things that were making them tons of money were about to run out, and they needed a new like cash stream as quick as possible. So things started happening probably faster than they should have.
Yeah. And that is the story here. It's the story a lot of the time, right? Where these, and I don't think this is a bad idea. Like the idea that drugs eventually age out to get generic is like kind of necessary in order to, in our system at least, in order to make it even have a chance of being affordable for some medications. But it leads to this as well. I don't know. Again, we don't need to go on another single payer healthcare rant, but like we have there's so many little things that are fucked up about like even the things that seem like they make sense that also lead to fucked up outcomes and because of how much money is at stake in these businesses and how expensive it is to be a pharmaceutical company, right? Yeah. Like it's not cheap, and most of the medications that they like, one of the things you have to accept as a pharma company is that most of the things you try to make into a medicine aren't going to work. Like that's just, and that's kind of the story here is a medication that if they had spent more time, they would have realized this was not a viable product. But they've got shareholders to please.
Right. And when the money starts to shift from research and development in these companies to marketing, which it does more and more.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
assuming, and that's really happening in the 90s. Yeah.
Right. I'm assuming that's the problem here.
Yep, that's a big part of it. Yes. So, Merck is coming into the 90s, not quite a 5-alarm fire yet, but definitely like a serious situation. And super aspirin seems like it might be the solution to their problems, and maybe even the key to greater profits than ever before. And speaking of greater profits than ever before, you know who's making money like they've never made money? Kaveh?
The people who deserve to? The people are the people who sponsor this podcast. They're the ones that deserve the most of the money.
That's right. The products and services that support this podcast are literally the only ethical people in capitalism. And you can just trust them. Give them your wallet. Give them your kids. Hand your children over to our sponsors. They'll take care of them. They'll raise them as their own.
Better than we would.
Better than you would. Yeah, exactly. Just trust them.
On June 11th, 1998, a deputy from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department went missing.
It's an all-out manhunt for John Auger. Every search and rescue team in LA County has been called in to help.
Within days, tips started flooding into the Sheriff's Department.
The rumor around the drug scene was that a deputy was taken care of.
Is this the story of a man who just got lost in the desert? Or of a cover-up inside the nation's largest sheriff's department?
A homicide captain saying, "Detective, do not find out if this guy's guilty or innocent." Who does that?
Valley of Shadows, a new series from Pushkin Industries about crime and corruption in California's high desert.
Do you have any advice for us while looking into this disappearance?
I wouldn't do it alone.
Listen to Valley of Shadows on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong with a podcast called The Red Weather.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth.
You can now binge all episodes of The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Almost 30 years together, 4 kids, and some of reality TV's most unforgettable moments, we know a thing or two about living life out loud. We're taking you behind the scenes in our new podcast, Between Us, with me, Heather Dubrow.
And me, Terry Dubrow. Between Us isn't about perfect lighting or curated Instagram grids.
It's the unfiltered, behind-closed-doors conversations you wish you could eavesdrop on. Equal parts smart, funny, and a little bit scandalous.
Every week, Heather will bring you an unapologetic take on the headlines, the trends, and the cultural moments everyone's texting about.
And Terry will deliver insider beauty, health, and wellness insights you won't find on TikTok.
Together, we'll tell the stories, spill the secrets, and share the hacks that keep life, marriage, and everything in between feeling fresh and fun.
We may live in a gated community, but there's zero gatekeeping here.
And plenty of "did they just say that" moments.
Listen to Between Us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know Roald Dahl, the writer who thought up Willy Wonka, Matilda, and the BFG. But did you know he was also a spy?
Was this before he wrote his stories? It must have been.
Our new podcast series, The Secret World of Roald Dahl, is a wild journey through the hidden chapters of his extraordinary, controversial life.
His job was literally to seduce the wives of powerful Americans.
What?
And he was really good at it.
You probably won't believe it either.
Okay, I don't think that's true.
I'm telling you, the guy was a spy.
Did you know Dahl got cozy with the Roosevelts, played poker with Harry Truman, and had a long affair with a congresswoman? And then he took his talents to Hollywood, where he worked alongside Walt Disney and Alfred Hitchcock before writing a hit James Bond film. How did this secret agent wind up as the most successful children's author ever? And what darkness from his covert past seeped into the stories we read as kids? The true story is stranger than anything he ever wrote. Listen to The Secret World of Roald Dahl on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, it's me, Anna Sinfield from The Girlfriends, the #1 hit true crime show that puts women right in the center of their own stories. I'm back with more one-off interviews with some truly kick-ass women on The Girlfriends Spotlight. I want to introduce you to Sylvia.
I'm going to climb this.
And then there's Visaka.
Let's see how we can stop killing. and save lives.
Layla dared to ask the question,
is badness hereditary?
And finally, we'll meet Rosamond.
If it wasn't for the air where Ella lived, she wouldn't have died on that fatal night.
You'll even get to meet my mum in that one, who I can always count on to keep my feet on the ground.
I'm not too intimidated by her.
What are you talking about? Listen to the Girlfriend Spotlight on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back. I didn't mean to imply that none of you were good parents. It's just that our sponsors are incredible parents, you know?
That much better.
They've never yelled at me. Never yelled at me. Never even spanked me. And I deserved it sometimes. So
you pay money for that sort of thing.
I have. No, we don't need to be saying shit like that. The subreddit's going to get real uncomfortable very fast. Okay. So super aspirin seems like it could be the solution to Merck's problems. In 1994, a new CEO takes over at Merck. And this is, we were just talking about the shift from R&D to marketing. This is perfectly emblematic of that, because Merck's new CEO is a guy named Raymond Gilmartin. Now, the previous CEO, Raymond is an MBA from Harvard, right? Which means he doesn't know anything about anything but making money in the most sketchy ways possible. Whereas the previous CEO of Merck had been Dr. Roy Vagelos, an actual medical scientist with a research background.
Very famous.
So, yes. Yeah. So Merck goes from famous and widely respected medical researcher as their CEO to a guy with an MBA from Harvard.
Yeah, the Vagelos Award is like this award that's still given out to like people who are like doing humanitarian work for like in the pharmaceutical world. So
yeah,
like this is a major shift away from somebody who was, I think, ostensibly a very good person, from all accounts, a very good person, good researcher.
Yeah.
To something very different.
Yeah, maybe the answer is if you're going to be the CEO of a pharmaceutical company, you should have like watched a sick child die at a hospital.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't mean to be blunt, but it seems like it leads you to do things like give up patents on life-saving medication in order to make sure it saves more people.
A rotation in the hospital.
I keep thinking about like fucking the polio vaccine guy, who he was like, I think his direct quote when asked if he was going to patent it was like, would you patent the sun? Yeah.
Salk.
Yeah, Salk. Yeah. Real G, real Chad. So Raymond's career up to that point, this is the business guy, new CEO of Merck, had included 8 years as a consultant for Arthur D. Little, which lists as one of its great achievements, it's like McKinsey kind of, it's a consulting firm, and it listed as one of its great achievements the privatization of British rail. So those of you over in the UK, I'm sure you love this guy. Also, there was this time that they used a bucket of sow's ears to make a silk purse. I don't know why this is listed as an achievement of the Arthur D. Little Company, but it is. He worked as the CEO at a medical device company after that until he was hired by Merck as their first outside CEO for the express purpose of seeing them through the looming patent cliff scenario. So he is brought in as kind of like an emergency guy, right? Now, it was Raymond who decided that Merck's future would be in super aspirin, alongside their chief scientist, Dr. Edward Skolnick. He launched a crash program to bring a COX-2 inhibitor pain medication to market. The name they picked for the wonder drug that did not yet exist, but they were going to hang the company's future on, was Vioxx. Now, time was of the essence here. Dr. Needleman, the guy who had failed to discover COX-2 but had gone ahead and named it anyway, worked at a company called GD Searle, which was a division of Monsanto, and was leading research into a new NSAID that would eventually be called Celebrex. And while Celebrex was under development, Pfizer bought Searle from Monsanto and started throwing money into Celebrex as part of what was turning into a vicious competition to be the first pharmaceutical company to bring one of these new super aspirins to market. And there's probably a lot to be said about Celebrex. I am not competent to say it. I will say that it is currently a medication that the FDA says there's not evidence of significant harms for. There is debate about that to this day, but that's all I can say on the matter because I'm not an expert on this. There are some activists who are very angry that Celebrex is still on the market. The FDA has said it's more or less fine. That's where we are with Celebrex.
Yeah, it's in the same family.
Yes.
And it comes with a warning on it that's more striking than most other NSAIDs.
Yes.
I don't know. Actually, it's a good question. I don't know how often it's used these days. I assume it's pretty rare. Or not as often as it was, for sure.
It's one of those things where a few years ago, there was a very scary study about heart problems that it could cause. And then a few years later, there was a study that suggests well, no, maybe we got that one wrong. And maybe it's no worse than other drugs in this class. Again, that's all I can really say about Celebrex, because I'm not qualified to judge a medication that there's still a lot of debate over.
I don't have a lot more to add to it either, but it feels like there's other NSAIDs out there that we use a little more frequently and seem a little safer.
Yeah. But what you need to know is that Pfizer is putting their money into Celebrex after they acquire Merle. And Vioxx is going to be the attempt made by Merck to do the same thing. So throughout the mid-1990s, Kaveh, Merck scientists worked on Vioxx, rushing it through stages of medical testing, harassed by the knowledge that any delay or bad finding, and when I say bad, not in the scientific sense, it's not bad scientifically to find out a drug doesn't work, but bad for the company if this drug doesn't work because they're on a timetable, would stop them from beating Pfizer. And unfortunately for everybody, there were signs right from the beginning that Vioxx might be dangerous. The first evidence of this was presented in the mid-1990s by Dr. Garrett Fitzgerald, a Merck consultant who was also professor of cardiovascular medicine at the University of Pennsylvania. He warned the company that Vioxx might harm the walls of the blood vessels protecting the human heart. I'm going to quote again from the book Poison Pills by Tom Nessie, which if you're looking for a really good exploration of how a pharmaceutical company does evil, Poison Pills is very well written. He suggested that Merck set up a series of experiments to test this theory. Few of them were ever performed. Other scientists cautioned that Vioxx was related to kidney damage and an increase in blood pressure that could be linked to heart problems. Dr. Fitzgerald also found similar problems with a drug in the same class as Vioxx called Celebrex, made by rival drug company Pfizer. Like Merck, Pfizer denied the finding of any cardiovascular problems with its drug, but cleverly began its own campaign to portray Vioxx as the more dangerous of the compounds.
That's smart.
At this point, when he initially warns them, the drug is not on market. He is trying to stop it from getting to market by saying, there's some real evidence this is sketchy. You should carry out more studies. And Merck is just kind of but what if we didn't? It's like when you've been spending crazy all month and you probably you might be running down to the limit, but you're just going to the grocery store hoping that your card works this one more time or something. Right. So now at this point, there was no hard evidence of harm to the human heart, in large part because Merck had refused to do the studies that Dr. Fitzgerald advised. This changed in 1996 when an internal Merck study showed that people who took Vioxx in high doses suffered more heart problems than people given a placebo. A memo was issued internally that noted the treatment period was 6 weeks versus placebo. The initial dose of Vioxx was 175 milligrams, but in mid-study, the dose was lowered to 125 milligrams. Adverse events of most concern were in the cardiovascular system, i.e., heart attack, unstable angina, rapid fall in hemoglobin, and hematocrypt, dangerous blood problems in some subjects. So that's bad. Those are all really bad results.
You're almost officially a doctor because that is correct. That is the appropriate diagnosis, is that it's all
not good.
Bad.
Not good.
Not good.
Not good.
No.
It is important to underline the severity of these results, though. These extremely serious side effects were present after just a few weeks of medication for doses that were just about twice the approved amount for treating acute pain, which was 50 milligrams. Now, twice sounds like a lot, but when we are talking about the way people use medicines, it's really not. People take way more, especially pain medicine, than they ought to.
This keeps me in business that people do this. This is almost, and you don't even have to take it more than is recommended to run into problems, because sometimes people only take a little and they run into problems in the GI system, for example, or other issues like kidneys that can be affected or the heart. But it is a sole underlying known fact that whatever we think people are going to be taking, likely it'll be more.
And that is why it's standard in tests like the one they were conducting, actually to test 10 times the effective acute dose when doing studies like this to check for side effects, which they didn't do because they knew that the results would be even worse. One doctor who analyzed these results noted, "I recall very clearly many occasions where Merck scientists and doctors working with Merck were claiming that Vioxx was safe as placebo," which we've already seen it's not. Now, the reality is that results like this were a big warning sign and should have been taken as evidence that Vioxx might not be viable as a medication and certainly needed more testing. But Merck went full speed ahead. In November of 1998, they asked the FDA to approve Vioxx after testing the drug on 5,400 patients. They bragged that they had conducted 8 different studies which had shown Vioxx's efficacy. Now, this is where we get into a complicated and uncomfortable topic, medical studies and why they often don't work the way that they should. In theory, the process of conducting medical studies should identify dangers in new drugs and accurately measure their efficacy. But theory envisions a situation in which drugs are researched by disinterested parties who have no vested interest in anything but the truth. The reality is that studies are often funded by pharmaceutical companies who, like Merck, might be sweating the arrival of an upcoming patent cliff and headed by a new CEO who lacks the same commitment to medical ethics as his precursor. I'm going to quote now from an article on this in the Union of Concerned Scientists. To increase the likelihood of FDA approval for its anti-inflammatory and arthritis drug Vioxx, Merck used flawed methodologies biased towards predetermined results to exaggerate the drug's positive effects. Internal documents made public in litigation revealed that a Merck marketing team had developed a strategy called Advantage, assessment of differences between Vioxx and naproxen to ascertain gastrointestinal tolerability and effectiveness, to skew the results of clinical trials in the drug's favor. As part of the strategy, scientists manipulated the trial design by comparing the drug to naproxen, a pain reliever sold under brand names such as Aleve, rather than to a placebo. The scientists then highlighted the results that naproxen decreased the risk of heart attack by 80% and downplayed the results that Vioxx increased the risk of heart attack by 400%. This misleading presentation of the evidence made it look like naproxen was protecting patients from heart attacks and that Vioxx only looked risky by comparison. So instead of comparing this drug to a placebo, in which it would have been like, wow, the rate of heart attacks is much higher, they compared it to a drug that reduced the risk of heart attacks. And we're like, well, of course people have more heart attacks on this drug. This other drug reduces heart attacks, but that doesn't mean this is dangerous. Like, that's so fucking shady.
It's a bit tricky how they're doing it too, because so far a lot of what they have done sounds sounds sound from a distance. The whole idea of like looking at COX-2 inhibitors, like looking at medication specifically for this and comparing it, say, hey, look, at least we're better than the other medications to some degree from your way back vantage point, it all makes sense. It's when you start to like look a little bit more closely that it's questionable, especially given that they seem to know early on that there was high risk of these cardiovascular injuries, and that the whole narrative is being shifted to try and take focus away from that.
Yeah.
This is why it's a difference between marketing and between like scientists running the program.
Yeah, and that's like that's really the whole story here, right? So Merck's fuckery extended to the hiring of ghostwriters to write scientific articles reporting on clinical trials of Vioxx to try and convince doctors and regulators that the medication was safe. Internal Merck documents later revealed that in 16 out of 20 papers reporting on early Vioxx clinical trials, a Merck employee was listed as the lead author of the first draft. But in the published versions, credit for authorship was given to an outside academic. To continue from that piece by the Union of Concerned Scientists, in one draft of a Vioxx research study that did not yet have a prominent outside name attached, Merck officials listed the lead author only as external author ? A Merck scientist was also found to have removed the evidence of 3 heart attacks among patients in a data set from the results presented. So great stuff.
And I don't know what numbers were in that paper, but removing 3 can make a huge difference.
Yes, especially if you're not talking about a huge study, Yeah,
I wonder, did it say anything about how many people were in that study?
I you know what? I'm sure I could have looked into it, but I did not.
And I'm wondering if in these studies they were talking about the rates of peptic ulcer bleeding, gastric bleeding as well, because that's ostensibly the whole reason that they're doing this.
That was the whole thing that Advantage was supposed to show, right? Was that it reduced the rate of like peptic ulcer bleeding and stuff. And yeah, just the fact that we have drafts of them just being like, we'll figure out who the author of this piece is later. Once we find an outside doctor who's, wants some cash. And a lot of these aren't direct bribes. These are like, okay, you'll stick your name on this, and then this research project you want will get a little bit of funding from old Papa Merck,
And not even just that. These are all being published in decent journals. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that just people want to be in good journals. Yeah. They want to have another publication in, New England Journal of Medicine or The Lancet or whatever.
And you also have to remember, a lot of people think this is the next big miracle drug. So right. you want to have a little bit of play in that, right? Of course. Yeah. The worst piece of evidence against Vioxx of this period came out the same year Merck asked for FDA approval, 1998. Merck's study 090 involved 978 patients and showed that people on Vioxx experienced serious cardiovascular events 6 times as often as patients taking a different drug or a placebo for arthritis pain. Merck shelved the study and never published it. Later that same year, a group of medical researchers at the University of Pennsylvania, and by the way, thanks to that doctor we named earlier, the U of Penn really tried to stop Vioxx from being a thing, published a study that showed that COX-2 inhibitors might interfere with other enzymes that help prevent heart disease. Warnings were sent to Merck and Pfizer, who quickly shoved them off into the circular file and kept right on begging the FDA to say yes. And say yes, the FDA did. They approved Vioxx for use as a painkiller in adults in 1999, menstrual pain medication, and an anti-inflammatory for people with osteoarthritis. Despite approving the drug, FDA reviewer Dr. Villalba warned in his memorandum that there was evidence suggesting Vioxx caused more frequent cardiovascular events in patients. So, Vioxx goes to market. It immediately becomes a bestseller. Celebrex also goes to market. It drives massive profits for Pfizer. And this is in spite of the fact that particularly Vioxx is not great neither drug is really all that good at fighting pain. And I'm going to quote from the New York Times here. When studies on Vioxx and Celebrex became available in 1998 and 1999, many doctors were disappointed. Neither drug alleviated pain any better than the old medications, and the drugs cost close to $3 a pill. Over-the-counter pain relievers, in contrast, cost pennies a dose. And by the way, they weren't all that much better at preventing ulcers. Some studies suggest Vioxx was no better at preventing ulcers, although that seems to be unclear. Now, analysts say that the success of Vioxx was critical to Merck. The patents on those popular Merck drugs started expiring in 2000 and 2001, which opened them up to generic competition. And Vioxx comes through and is, almost immediately billions of dollars a year in profits for the company. Michael Krint-Savage, a drug industry analyst at the investment bank Raymond James & Associates, says Vioxx was Merck's savior. It's as simple as that. He puts it down as the company might have gone under, or at least, probably been acquired if it hadn't have been for Vioxx.
I remember at the time it was huge. I'd never seen a campaign like it. Not that I remember. I think it was one of the first times I remember really having being conscious of how much of medicine was being marketed. Yeah. I think it's one of these medicines where it's maybe 5 to 10% of the people who are using it maybe had some real benefit, where it did help them from a gastric ulcer perspective. Maybe they didn't have the option of taking another medicine, but for the other 90% of people that were taking it, it wasn't necessary for them. It wasn't something that they needed, and it was just increasing their risk of heart attack or stroke. And I think that this is, I bet you, you probably know this, but I bet up to this point, this was the most that had ever been spent on direct marketing.
Yeah, and that is what we're actually about to talk about, is the marketing campaign, which, surprise, surprise, involves beloved figure skater Dorothy Hamill. But
I knew it.
Yes, she's the great monster in this and all of our episodes. Every episode we've ever done, Dorothy Hamill
been
is
building
the
up to this.
Villain.
She's the Thanos of the Behind the Bastards world.
That's right. Joseph Stalin would never have accomplished his greatest crimes without Dorothy Hamill's assistance. That's obvious, though.
It's an evil haircut.
Historians have been talking about that for decades. Anyway, you know who's not Dorothy Hamill? I don't know why I'm shitting on Dorothy Hamill. None of this is really her fault. Anyway, here's ads.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human. Hey everyone, it's Emily Simpson and Shane Simpson from the Legally Brunette podcast.
Each week, we're bringing you true crime through a legal lens.
Whether you want all the facts on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, or you still need to wrap your head around the Diddy verdict, we're breaking it all down step by step.
And we're not just lawyers, we're also husband and wife. It makes for some pretty entertaining episodes.
Listen to Legally Brunette on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Almost 30 years together, 4 kids, and some of reality TV's most unforgettable moments. We're taking you behind the scenes in our podcast, Between Us, with me, Heather Dubrow.
And me, Terry Dubrow.
The unfiltered, behind closed doors conversations you wish you could eavesdrop on.
And plenty of, did they just say that moments?
But I mean, what's the latest rumor? I'm gay, right? First of all, if I were gay, I would be gay.
Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Between Us, and listen now.
On June 11th, 1998, a deputy from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department went missing.
Hey, if they'll kill a cop and bury him, what are they going to do to me?
What really happened to the missing deputy? Valley of Shadows, a new series from Pushkin Industries about crime and corruption in California's high desert.
Listen to Valley of Shadows on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When segregation was a law, one mysterious black club owner, Charlie Fitzgerald, had his own rules.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
It was like stepping on another world.
Was he a businessman, a criminal, a hero?
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
Charlie's Place, from Atlas Obscura and Visit Myrtle Beach. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Anna Navarro, and on my new podcast, Bleep with Anna Navarro, I'm talking to the people closest to the biggest issues happening in your community and around the world. Because I know deep down inside right now, we are all cursing and asking what the bleep is going on. Every week, I'm breaking down the biggest issues happening in our communities and around the world. I'm talking to people like Julie K. Brown, who broke the explosive story on Jeffrey Epstein in 2018.
The Justice Department, we counted 4 presidential administrations, failed these victims.
Listen to Bleep with Anna Navarro on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
On June 11th, 1998, a deputy from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department went missing.
It's an all-out manhunt for John Auger. Every search and rescue team in LA County has been called in to help.
Within days, tips started flooding into the sheriff's department.
The rumor around the drug scene was that a deputy was taken care of.
Is this the story of a man who just got lost in the desert? Or of a cover-up inside the nation's largest sheriff's department?
A homicide captain saying, "Detective, do not find out if this guy's guilty or innocent." Who does that?
Valley of Shadows, a new series from Pushkin Industries about crime and corruption in California's high desert.
Do you have any advice for us while looking into this disappearance?
I wouldn't do it alone.
Listen to Valley of Shadows on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong with a podcast called The Red Weather.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth.
You can now binge all episodes of The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Almost 30 years together, 4 kids, and some of reality TV's most unforgettable moments. We know a thing or two about living life out loud. We're taking you behind the scenes in our new podcast, Between Us, with me, Heather Dubrow.
And me, Terry Dubrow. Between Us isn't about perfect lighting or curated Instagram grids.
It's the unfiltered, behind closed doors conversations you wish you could eavesdrop on. Equal parts smart, funny, and a little bit scandalous.
Every week, Heather will bring you an unapologetic take on the headlines, the trends, and the cultural moments everyone's texting about.
And Terry will deliver insider beauty, health, and wellness insights you won't find on TikTok.
Together, we'll tell the stories, spill the secrets, and share the hacks that keep life, marriage, and everything in between feeling fresh and fun.
We may live in a gated community, but there's zero gatekeeping here.
And plenty of did they just say that moments?
Listen to Between Us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know Roald Dahl, the writer who thought up Willy Wonka, Matilda, and the BFG. But did you know he was also a spy?
Was this before he wrote his stories? It must have been.
Our new podcast series, The Secret World of Roald Dahl, is a wild journey through the hidden chapters of his extraordinary, controversial life.
His job was literally to seduce the wives of powerful Americans.
What?
And he was really good at it.
You probably won't believe it either.
Okay, I don't think that's true.
I'm telling you, the guy was a spy.
Did you know Dahl got cozy with the Roosevelts, played poker with Harry Truman, and had a long affair with a congresswoman? And then he took his talents to Hollywood, where he worked alongside Walt Disney and Alfred Hitchcock before writing a hit James Bond film. How did this secret agent wind up as the most successful children's author ever? And what darkness from his covert past seeped into the stories we read as kids? The true story is stranger than anything he ever wrote. Listen to The Secret World of Roald Dahl on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, it's me, Anna Sinfield from The Girlfriends, the #1 hit true crime show that puts women right in the center of their own stories. I'm back with more one-off interviews with some truly kick-ass women on The Girlfriends Spotlight. I want to introduce you to Sylvia.
I'm going to climb this.
And then there's Visaka.
Let's see how we can stop killing and save lives.
Layla dared to ask the question,
is badness hereditary?
And finally, we'll meet Rosamond.
If it wasn't for the air where Ella lived, she wouldn't have died on that fatal night.
You'll even get to meet my mum in that one, who I can always count on to keep my feet on the ground.
I'm not too intimidated by her.
What are you talking about? Listen to The Girlfriend Spotlight on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back. Okay, so we're talking the Vioxx marketing campaign. How do you sell America on this drug that is going to get a decent percentage of America killed? And the answer is figure skating superstar Dorothy Hamill. So yeah, this is where the real villain of the story comes into it.
The haircut is a problem for me. I had
haircut,
my first
Dorothy Hamill's haircut.
My first girlfriend, the first girl that really smashed my heart into like a billion pieces, scattered them across the globe.
Was Dorothy Hamill? Wow, she's really taken some strays in this episode.
Whoa, she had Dorothy Hamill's haircut.
Oh,
which I don't know why at the time didn't bother me, but so now when I see that haircut, I'm like, oh yeah, that reminds me of that
lost love, lost love.
Yeah. Painful.
So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, back in the 1970s, an incredible athlete named Dorothy Hamill became one of the most famous people in the world when she was just 19. She performed at the 1976 Innsbruck Olympics and won the gold. Time declared her America's sweetheart, and as is customary for world-class athletes, corporations began offering her embarrassing piles of money to endorse their products. Hamill's first run as a famous person didn't go great. She married Dean Martin's kid, and then he died in a plane crash. She fell out with her coach. She spent all of her money buying the ice capades and then wound up burning out and developing a bleeding ulcer. She had another marriage that ended badly and wound up, well, not broke, you wouldn't say, but no longer rich. And she suffered from a substantial amount of pain from a lifetime of pushing her body to athletic excess. The pain was bad enough that at the worst, Dorothy could no longer even play with her daughter. Some days she could barely get out of bed. And then her doctor told her to try Vioxx. She would later claim that it was effectively a miracle cure for her, not only soothing her pain, but bringing back her ability to perform on the ice in a way she hadn't in years. In August of 2000, Hamill made an appearance on Larry King Live with Caitlyn Jenner. And Jenner is also talking about Vioxx in this. Jenner is also claiming that this really helped her arthritis. She told the audience a heart-wrenching story about loss and pain and her miraculous return to the world of the living thanks to Vioxx. Quote, I felt old. I felt depressed, tired all the time. I mean, having chronic pain is exhausting. And I got to the point this year, I was on tour and I couldn't skate. And so I went to a doctor and we finally got to the bottom of it. And my doctor prescribed Vioxx for me. And it's as if I've been given a new life. It's been amazing. I feel 20 years younger. I don't look it and I don't skate it, but I feel that way.
Was this when Larry King still had some credibility?
Oh, yeah. He was big at this point. This is like right around the turn of the century. He's still a major. Right.
This is
figure.
Like before infomercial Larry.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is, maybe this is part of his downfall, but people still take the show serious, and they take this very seriously. And to be clear, I'm not saying that, even Caitlin or Hamill
Dorothy
were lying about their experiences on Vioxx, because some people did gain benefits of this.
Yeah.
So I'm not doubting that. The problem again is that a single person's having a good reaction to a drug is not evidence that the drug is safe.
Right.
For example, I know some people in their 70s who have been doing heroin for 50 straight years and are fine. That doesn't mean heroin is safe. It means some people are lucky, right?
Yeah.
Or the aforementioned 90-year-old women doing.
Who are these ancient people who do drugs and smoke that you hang out with all the time?
You go to little Burning Man regionals. You run into a lot of elderly people who have been doing drugs for forever. Some of them are very good at it. I've been gas station sober for years now, Kaveh. Because that's like responsible.
California sober, but you can only get inebriated with things you buy at the gas station.
I don't mess with that marijuana. That shit's dangerous. I just take those trucker yellow jackets that they give to keep people driving long haul awake. I don't know what's in them. They're big and yellow. That means they're safe.
It would be red if it was dangerous.
It'd be red if it was dangerous. They can't put dangerous drugs in a yellow and black pill and call it yellow
means
jacket.
Caution. It doesn't mean danger.
Yeah. So I never take more than like 12 in a day. Yeah. Thank God for yellow jackets.
I sometimes don't know if you're kidding, and I just hope in my heart that you are, and I'm just going to pretend that this is all part of a bit.
I do the safe thing. I open the pill and I pour all the powder in the pill into a glass, and then I pour in a bunch of my kratom into the glass, and then I add a banana for the potassium. Because that's good for your heart.
This level of detail is what bothers me. This is the part I don't like.
It's fine. It's mostly just B12 and caffeine and God knows what else, because there's absolutely no agency that looks into what gets put into substances that are sold in gas stations in this country.
Oh my God. And what little oversight there is going to be gone.
Yes,
in the
thank
next
God.
coming years.
Thank God. Look, RFK Jr. might ban the HPV vaccine, but we could get legal heroin.
It's all one big organized end of humanity cash grab. The next couple of years, any drug you want to get through is going to get through.
God willing. Look, if the world's ending, do you want heroin to not be legal?
That's fair. But it's not going to be even heroin. It's going to be like, blood pressure pills that the company just gets through, and then it makes people's hearts explode. And then the company will just say, hey, we're bankrupt. And then they're fine. And then they just move on with their lives. And then people are going to be left in the wake. And then.
No, you're right. They're going to ban Prozac and replace it with polar bear liver pills. It's just got to be a disaster.
He was always doing research, that RFK.
He's always trying something new. So the fact that this beloved celebrity athlete has gone on Larry King and said exactly what Vioxx PR would want her to say was a godsend. That's the kind of PR no money can buy. Although I have to tell you now, that moment was in fact bought and paid for by Merck. They had found out that Dorothy was a customer. They had reached out to her with an idea and a pile of money. Her life story had been used as the basis for an entire marketing campaign, and her appearance on Larry King was just the first step in launching it. Tom Nessie writes, the day after Dorothy Hamill's appearance, even Merck's CEO, Raymond Gilmartin, was smitten. He had received heart-rending letters from arthritis sufferers saying they were going to immediately ask their physicians for Vioxx. Gilmartin personally congratulated the public relations department. One marketing executive wrote that, with Dorothy telling our story, Vioxx sales were going to soar and overtake Celebrex, an obsession within the company.
You almost slipped into your 50s radio announcer voice, but you kind of shifted to the 90s. I saw what you did there. It was nice.
I love it. So yeah, patients are coming in. They're begging doctors to write prescriptions. Doctors are going, well, shit, how bad could it be? It's basically just aspirin.
Right.
And a lot of people are suddenly taking Vioxx. Now, the FDA does push back a little on this campaign because Dorothy's appearance on Larry King counted as an ad, and she had not mentioned that she was being paid by Merck, which you're not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
They also had an issue that she was kind of basically saying she had not told people that Vioxx was extremely dangerous if you prescribed it to patients with a history of bleeding ulcers. In fact, she had stated that she was taking it despite her history of bleeding ulcers, which is kind of telling people this is safe to say in the exact situation that the FDA knows we know it is not safe to tell people to take it in.
Right. Yeah.
So the FDA gets kind of unhappy with this. And Merck replied, she just slipped up. We taught Hamill the proper way to sell our product, but she went off script. They promised to retrain her before following up with any additional advertisements. This happened on September 12th, 2000. The next day, in violation of their promise to the FDA, Hamill appeared on a local TV station in Atlanta to urge people to consider Vioxx. The FDA never found out about this and might not have cared if they had. If you wanted to get away with something September 12th, well, actually, that was 2000. Never mind. Everything was still fine. I was just like, did I just go over September 12th and not make a
I feel like you would have
joke?
caught that.
No, it's fine.
The research. Yeah.
Didn't happen yet. Everything was fine. Plenty of towers in New York still at this point. Now, the unfortunate reality of the FDA is that it is staffed and operated by a lot of people who want to work in the private sector of the pharmaceutical industry someday. And some of these people feel a need to avoid making waves and killing a golden goose that is currently injecting cash into someone they want as a future employer, or who may have been a past employer that they're hoping will, hire them on for a lucrative consulting gig in the future. Yeah. Beyond that, the teams at the FDA, who we rely on to monitor food and drug advertising, are hideously understaffed, operating on a shoestring budget. There may not have been anyone watching Dorothy Hamill's ad on local Atlanta TV because no one was being paid to do so. Now, Merck did change their TV ads for Vioxx based on the FDA's feedback, and you can see one example of that here. We got to play just one of these bad boys. Here is Dorothy Hamill's revised Vioxx ad.
When I started skating at 8 years old, I never thought I'd experience the thrill of winning a medal. With all the great memories has come another thing I thought I'd never experience, the pain of osteoarthritis.
Vioxx is here, a prescription medicine for osteoarthritis pain. With one little pill a day, Vioxx can provide powerful 24-hour relief. Vioxx specifically targets only the COX-2 enzyme, a key source of arthritis pain. People with allergic reactions, such as asthma, to aspirin or other arthritis medicines should not take Vioxx. In rare cases, serious stomach problems, such as bleeding, can occur without warning. Tell your doctor if you have liver or kidney problems. For more information, talk to your doctor about once daily Vioxx for the relief of osteoarthritis pain.
Perhaps my biggest victory is to be able to plan my day around my life instead of my pain.
Ask your doctor if Vioxx is right for you. Vioxx for everyday victories.
First of all,
See?
I take back what I said about her hair. I think it actually looked really good there. I don't know. Like maybe it's just like time and the cycle change and fashion. I don't know.
Maybe it was the Vioxx. You don't know. Maybe Vioxx makes your hair look great. Everybody go out and buy Vioxx.
It's a brilliant strategy. Like the people who grew up watching her and knew who she was and admired her are that age where they were having lots of osteoarthritis and joint pains, looking for medication. She's the perfect spokesperson.
Yeah.
And she has that innocence so that you believe,
Yeah. And the Dorothy Hamill ads are a huge success. Millions of Americans saw their former child sweetheart skating and skiing and living an active, healthy life thanks to this new miracle drug. And millions of them decided, I want that for myself. And ultimately, tens of thousands of them are going to die as a result. And that's the story we're going to tell in part 2, Kaveh.
Can't wait.
Yay. But first off, do you have anything to plug before we roll out here?
I do. Plug is my show. That is the plug that I want to plug is my show. I'm plugging it now. It's called The House of Pod. It is a humor adjacent medical podcast. If you like the subjects like today's subject, you'll like our show. In fact, one of our most recent episodes is about sort of similar, a little bit less egregious, but similar pharmaceutical shenanigery I don't know if that's a word, about the medication Zygris. And there's all kinds of fun guests like Robert and Prop and all the people you know and love here, Margaret. So check out my show, The House of Pod. And if you want, you can follow me at Blue Sky, which I'm giving a shot now. Seems a little bit less fascist.
Yeah, and, definitely less fascist. It's got its own annoyances, but all of social media has things that annoy me. So what are you going to do?
Exactly. You can follow me there at Kaveh MD.
Mm-hmm. You can also follow me there at I Write Okay, where you can follow me on the other place too. But you know what you could do that I would appreciate most? Go get off the internet. Feed somebody, you know? Do something good in the world.
Yeah, I like it.
Don't be online.
I like it. And
except for to listen to podcasts. Keep listening to for the love of God. Keep listening to podcasts.
Do not stop listening to podcasts.
Under no circumstances stop listening to podcasts. Will you ever
stop? In fact, no. Just for thinking about stopping, you should listen to extra podcasts today.
Yeah. You know what? I'll say it right now. If you have stomach ulcers, podcast will knock that right
Podcast your way
out.
through it.
Mm-hmm.
Podcast your way through it.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
Agreed.
Behind the Bastards is a production of Cool Zone Media. For more from Cool Zone Media, visit our website, coolzonemedia.com. Or check us out on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Behind the Bastards is now available on YouTube. New episodes every Wednesday and Friday. Subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/@BehindTheBastards.
Hey everyone, it's Emily Simpson and Shane Simpson from the Legally Brunette podcast.
Each week, we're bringing you true crime through a legal lens.
Whether you want all the facts on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, or you still need to wrap your head around the Diddy verdict, we're breaking it all down step by step.
And we're not just lawyers, we're also husband and wife. It makes for some pretty entertaining episodes.
Listen to Legally Brunette on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Heather Dubrow.
And I'm Terry Dubrow.
And we're going to keep this between us.
Not really. The TMZ guy walks up to me and goes, Terry, what do you think about Bradley Cooper? They asked him and they said he's not had any plastic surgery.
But I mean, what's the latest rumor? I'm gay, right? Isn't that the latest rumor?
Yes.
First of all, if I were gay, I would be gay.
Listen to Between Us on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Follow Between Us and start listening on the free iHeartRadio app today.
When segregation was a law, one mysterious black club owner, Charlie Fitzgerald, had his own rules.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
It was like stepping in another world.
Was he a businessman, a criminal, a hero?
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
Charlie's Place, from Atlas Obscura and Visit Myrtle Beach. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
On June 11th, 1998, a deputy from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department went missing.
Hey, if they'll kill a cop and bury him, what are they going to do to me?
What really happened to the missing deputy? Valley of Shadows, a new series from Pushkin Industries about crime and corruption in California's high desert.
Listen to Valley of Shadows on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Anna Navarro, and on my new podcast, Bleep with Anna Navarro, I'm talking to the people closest to the biggest issues happening in your community and around the world. Because I know deep down inside right now, we are all cursing and asking what the bleep is going on. Every week, I'm breaking down the biggest issues happening in our communities and around the world. I'm talking to people like Julie K. Brown, who broke the explosive story on Jeffrey Epstein in 2018.
The Justice Department, through, we counted 4 presidential administrations, failed these victims.
Listen to Bleep with Anna Navarro on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.